Hi there, I'm Tracy, and this is the 3-Wick Thesis candle channel. Today I have for you an episode on tools of the trade. Some of y'all had requested more information on some of the tools I use to uphold my candle burning industry that I have here at my house. And I have gone through a lot of trial and error. So I did want to share with you some of the stuff I use, why I use it. I do have some recommendations. I'll also highlight that I have linked some of these products that you can get on Amazon in the description below. Just a heads up, I am an Amazon partner now. So those are affiliate links. If you purchase through those links, I do make a very small commission. Do not feel obligated to use those. They're there if you want to, but by all means, if you'd rather shop outside of those links, I encourage you to do that as well. And any money I receive is getting reinvested back into the channel, and it's not much. It's like 2 or 3%, y'all. Very small. Okay, I'm going to start with what I would consider to be more of like my everyday tools that are directly linked to candle burning. And that always has a home in one of my repurposed jars. So this is a Yankee large signature jar that I've repurchased for my tools. And it holds all the stuff I use every day throughout the day to maintain my candles. That includes a Wick Trimmer. I went for the Volupspa brand. This one is very expensive, but y'all, the heft on this one is legit. I feel like it works really well. It feels good in my hands. It gives me more control. There's a little bit of resistance when you squeeze, whereas I feel like some of the cheaper ones feel really flimsy. They don't cut cleanly. So I spent the extra money on this because of the quality. And I do have I have 4 of these in my house. I keep one of these in every room. This same kit times 4 in every room. Now, some of you have asked me, is a Wick Trimmer really worth it? The answer is yes, because let me show you. For 2 reasons. Number 1, let's say I have this candle here and we're getting down to the bottom, the wax is down here, and I need to trim those wicks. I can reach this all the way down with no problem. My hand's not at risk of burning. I can reach the wicks. Also, because this is flat, it has this angle, I can trim the wick from the top without having to do some sort of weird twisty. Now, I know some people say just use nail clippers, but I'm trying to imagine sticking my hand down here with nail clippers. It's not going to be fun. So I do recommend a Wick Trimmer. You don't necessarily have to go with this brand, but I do really like this one. The other thing I will say is that the way Wick Trimmers work, and I'm going to see if I can capture this on the camera, when they cut, they're not completely even. This has also got a ledge. So what it does is when you cut the wick, it captures it so it doesn't fall through. You can then keep it closed like that and then go to your trash and just go boop, knock it out, and it falls out of this kind of pooled area here. So not only does it trim, but it holds the old wick it stains everything. I have stains on my rug over here from wick. I have stains on my counter from wick. So if you can get a trimmer that will hold that mess until you can get it to the trash can, it's worth it. Okay, so multiple reasons why I would suggest using a Wick Trimmer. Okay, that's the Wick Trimmer. And I'll put a link to, I think they still sell it. I'll put a link to this Wick Trimmer in the description in case you want to pick that up. I don't make money off of that link. The other thing I have in every single one of my kits is what's called a Wick Dipper. Now this one is from the Kalamazoo Candle Company. You can get these on Amazon. I think they're all generally the same. Well, that's not entirely true. I have another one that I don't like that I got from Serendipity. That's a Canadian candle company. I'll tell you why I don't like that one and why this one is better. So this one got the hook, but it's not a total, let me see if I can capture that. It's not a total 90 degree. It's a little bit more than a 90 degree angle. So when you are able to put it out, I usually just have a piece of tissue and then I'll wipe the wax off when I'm done, just so you don't get transfer of wax from one candle to the next. That's especially important for colored wax. Like if you are putting out a blue candle and then you put out a white candle next, it's going to stain your white wax. So I always like to wipe the wax off with a tissue after I've extinguished the candle. And there are ones that have more of a 90-degree angle, so it would be literally a 90-degree sharp, and it has like a corner in it. And those ones get wax buildup in the corner that I feel like no matter what you do, you can't get it off with a tissue, and I don't like that. So if you're going to pick up a Wick Dipper, try to get one that has a larger angle than 90-degree. And then this one just fits really nicely in your hand because it feels like a fork or like a spoon with how flat that is and the shape. So you end up, same situation. If I've got a Yankee signature large jar, I can just reach all the way down, extinguish the wick, push it into the wax, and then you always want to pop your wick back up into the space so that when it dries, you can light it again. And I'll go ahead and put a video over here of what it looks like when I extinguish my candles. Since I started using a Wick Dipper, I can tell you that the soot in my candles has decreased significantly, so I do highly recommend a Wick Dipper. There are a couple of things that I want to note. Number one is, yes, you can use a snuffer. However, snuffers are built for taper candles. When you use them in a 3-wick candle, for example, you are essentially dipping that bell into hot wax. That can build up and cause all sorts of mess and problems. It also takes a lot longer to put your candle out than a Wick Dipper does. So I don't use snuffers anymore at all. The other thing that I know some of y'all are concerned about with a Wick Dipper is that sometimes wicks have mushroom heads on them. And if you dip the wick into the hot wax, sometimes that mushroom head falls off. That can be frustrating. So enter my next tool. These are plant tweezers. You can also get them for like aquariums. This is by a company called Jungle Club. I picked this up at a local, it's like a metaphysical shop. They sell like crystals and plants, and they had these. I forget, I think they had them for like $8, which is a really good price because this is some quality metal. It feels really well made. And you'll notice there's just some texture here at the end of the tweezer, and then you can pinch. It's kind of like kids' chopsticks. So then what happens if you have a mushroom head and you put it out with the Wick Dipper, and then all of a sudden that head goes into your wax pool that's still wet, you just dip this into your candle, tweeze it out, and then put that into a tissue, wipe this off, and you're good to go. It's a lot of tools, but also if you burn candles as much as I do, I feel like I need these toolkits around my house. Okay, so that solves the mushroom head going into your wax pool problem. Also, this is really great at digging out bugs in your wax pool. I have fruit flies, I have mosquitoes, I have all sorts of little bugs with wings that end up in my wax pool. This also will take out the bugs that land in your pool. Next, I have an electric lighter. This is rechargeable. This also comes from Kalamazoo Candle Company. This was, I think, like $5.75 that I purchased from them. They're still selling these if you want to snag them at that price. It has this on switch, and then it shows you how much it's charged. This one is actually needing to be plugged in. Has 4 lights, tells you how much life is left. You'll notice that the lighter pops up, so it's only out when you've ignited it or when you've pushed that button up. And then the power button is right here. So when you push that, you'll notice, and I'll put my hand behind it, you get a flame. Let me put it behind something dark so you can see better. There you go. And then all you do, and I'll show you a video of what that looks like, is you just put the wick in between these 2 slots, hit that button, and then it ignites the wick. If it's a new wick, it takes some work. You have to hold it down for quite a bit of time. This does have a timeout function. It will only light for a certain amount of time, and then you have to hit the button again. In that case, if it's a new wick, that's usually where I get out my Bic lighter, just because it's easier. It's got the little safety switch. You just push this button and you've got flame. This one doesn't have an automatic off, so I always use these on new candles, and then I usually use the electric lighter after I've already lit a wick at least once. This will hold a charge for about a day with how much I burn candles, and I probably can light 6 or 7 candles before the charge is out. So it's not exactly convenient, but it's better than constantly having to throw these away because they're out of fuel, or having one that's battery powered where you're constantly throwing batteries away. And then it just charges on the other end. Plugs in here, and then it has a USB that can plug into like your computer. So that is my electric lighter and my Wick lighter for new candles. So this is my toolkit. Sits on my desk. My husband has one on his desk. We have one in the kitchen and we have one in the bathroom. And we use those tools every day, pretty much throughout the day. Now, a couple more things I want to talk about. One is sometimes y'all, you have candles that arrive broken and you don't know what to do with the wax. Some of y'all just throw it away. I like to take mine and cut it up into wax melts, which means I have to have wax warmers, and I also have some tools for doing that safely. So I'm going to share those with you now. Okay, so anytime you're cutting up wax, I would say, even if it's 100% soy, get yourself a separate cutting board. So I just got one of these small, like XOXO cutting boards. It's just hard plastic. These clean up nicely because whatever you cut your wax on is going to pick up all the oils that are in the candle, and it can get really messy really quickly. And I don't want to think about cooking with cutting boards that have had candle wax on it. So get yourself a cutting board, and then I recommend a toolkit. I'm going to link this in the description. I got this on Amazon. You have a scraper and this is a soap wax cutter. So the way that the blade is, and I don't know if that's going to come through very well, it's got these ridges, which makes slicing through the wax a lot easier. It's not super sharp, but sharp enough to cut wax. If you use a standard blade, which I have used before, one, it's super dangerous because the blade can get really oily, and then your hands can get oily, and then you're gripping what's usually like a slippery handle, and it can slip. This has a dry wood handle, so the oils are not going to have as great of an effect on your ability to grip, which means you'll have a steadier slicing motion. The other thing is that the wax doesn't build up in the same way with these ridges as what it does on a flat blade, a traditional like butcher's knife. So this is just a better tool to use. It's also super cheap, highly recommend it. You can just take your candle wax from your broken candle out of the broken jar. I usually just sit mine on my cutting board and then slice, 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 slice. And then it comes into these chunks. Sometimes it's more brittle. Sometimes it just comes right apart. This one is actually one of the Care Bear candles from last year that arrived broken, and I chopped it up. But it can get pretty oily. But I was able to just chop it into chunks. You just apply a little bit of pressure and it kind of just breaks apart. And then I just put it in a Ziploc and label it so we know which wax this is. Although I could probably tell by smelling this one, this is one of my husband's favorites. And it's a citrus one I don't like so much. But we just store it in Ziplocs. This board is going to get a lot of wax build up on it. It's going to get kind of gross and gunky, which is where the second tool in that kit comes from. This is a scraper. So you can just scrape along the cutting board to scrape off all the wax into the trash. I don't like putting wax down my drain. I know that 100% soy, you're technically supposed to be able to rinse with soap and water, but in general, you're not supposed to put fats or anything oily down your sink drain. It can clog your pipes. I live in a condo. I don't want to deal with that. So I scrape as much of the wax and oil off as possible into the trash, and then I toss this into the dishwasher. So in general, I like this toolkit. I use both of these that came with that, and then the cutting board is an additional purchase, but worthwhile to keep that separate from the rest of my food cooking utensils. Now, you've got wax you have to melt. Alternatively, you may buy wax melts in these clamshells. What do you do with this stuff? Again, you have some options. You can buy one of these little, it's almost like a wallflower. And I'm going to put videos over here of what this stuff looks like in use. But it comes with a little cup. You put your little cup in here. It's got a bulb in the bottom that's replaceable. So you put that there. You put this into the wall. You put your wax into here. It melts and it creates fragrance in the air. So it vaporizes the oils that are in here. The wax does not disappear because it's not getting hot enough to evaporate. Just the fragrance oils evaporate. So eventually you'll have unscented wax oil that you need to get rid of, This is nice. It's almost like a silicone texture, so you can just pour it out into the trash. This doesn't get hot enough to burn things, so you can pour this wax directly into your trash, which can also make your trash smell good. Or you can use cotton balls to soak this up and wipe it out. So this is great for smaller spaces like a bathroom. If you have a larger room, you can go with a wax warmer. I'm going to show you two of them that I own. One of them is from Yankee. This is Yankee Candles Wax Warmer. It has these settings on the back, power button, and then these are timer settings. So you can turn this on for 3 hours, 6 hours, or 9 hours, and then it will auto shut off. This one doesn't have just a straight on. This one is only timed. And then you put your wax into this tray. You put the tray onto the warmer, and then it will melt your wax for you. If you don't want to have to clean up the inside of your tray, you can also get on Amazon these little cups. I'll show you what those look like. Now these are warmer safe. So they are intended to be used on the warmer. They kind of look like cupcake wrappers. So you put your wax in here, and then you put this inside here. It will melt your wax the same as it would if you didn't have this. Only good thing about this is if you want to switch out fragrances throughout the day, you can just pop this out and pop the next one in. Or if you don't want to clean up the mess, you can just throw this away when you're done and you don't have to deal with it at all. So these are really nice. I've actually stopped using these mostly because the fragrances I'm choosing for melts are more of like background fragrances that kind of go well with everything. But if I were to lean more heavy into melts and stray away from candles, I would use these because I'd want to switch out the fragrance more often than what I do right now. So these are available, disposable, you use them and toss them, and they only really work in these larger wax melt containers. The other wax melter I have is one that doesn't have a timer, and it's either on or off. And this one does have an indicator light, which is nice, because this one is actually both a candle warmer and a wax melter. So I'll show this video here of what it looks like when it's melting a candle. And in that case, you literally just take your candle and you stick it on the warmer, and then it's gonna melt your wax from the bottom up. It does take quite a bit of time. We're talking like an hour and a half to 2 hours until you melt this whole thing. It's gonna throw out a lot of fragrance, but you won't be able to burn your candle after you do that because it messes up the wicks. So I usually only do that with candles that I've designated as duds, like ones that just aren't burning properly with their wicks, and I'll just use the warmer instead. But in general, I don't like bottom-up warmers. I prefer top-down warmers, and I'm going to share that with you next. But this one does have that feature if you wanted to use it. But I just use this one for wax melts, and it has this tray. You put it here, and this is more if I want the fragrance going for more than 9 hours. I don't want to have to keep hitting that timer. I want it to go for as long as possible. I'll use this one. I also have 2 additional warmers that are what I consider more stationary in my house. One of them is the one that's over here behind me. That is a warmer that I bought from Charity Rose. I'll link her channel below in case you want to check out her channel. She does great stuff with wax melts. She's also a Scentsy consultant, so I bought that through her. That's the Himalayan salt warmer. It's heavy. It's actual Himalayan salt. It is dry, it is salty, it is heavy, but it is also gorgeous. It gives off such a beautiful glow. It also runs hotter than these other melters, so you get more throw. The wax still doesn't disappear, but I feel like you get better fragrance quality with that one than you do these other 2. The other one that I have that I also picked up from Charity Rose is this Pooh Bear one. I got that one for my husband, and Scentsy also had a 100-acre wax melt that I bought to go with it. The fragrance was okay, but for me it was more about the actual melter. That one and the one behind me are both either on or off. There is no timer, and I use the Pooh one in my bedroom, and it's pretty much on all the time unless I leave the house. And then this one is always in my living room, pretty much on unless I leave the house. So these ones I use for, I don't know, office, kitchen, bathroom. These are more what I consider like mobile warmers. I can move them around the house depending on where I want them, whereas the other two are more what I would consider stationary. And then on top of those warmers, I also have a candle lamp that I use. Now, this is not a good quality lamp. It gets by, it gets me through, but I don't really like it. It's pretty. I like how it looks when it's lit. Here's a video here of me melting a candle for you just so you can see it. So unlike this one, which melts the wax from the bottom up, this one melts the wax from the top down. And then this arm is adjustable, so you can use it on the taller candles. Although I will say this feature is very cheap, and I've had it kind of fall in on itself a couple times. It always makes me a little bit nervous. I don't like using it, but I haven't found a good one. I had another one that actually blew the breaker in my house and then wouldn't work. I had to throw that one away. In general, I just feel like these are all really cheaply made, and I just buy one and hope that it lasts me for as long as possible. But you can adjust this arm for the taller, like signature jars at Yankee, or if you have a smaller, like single wick, then you can lower it. Basically, you just want the bulb to be, the bulb is up here. You want the bulb to be closer, there's the bulb, to the wax because it will melt it. And then you have a switch here, which has on, and then it has 2 hour, 4 hour, and 6 hour. It also has a very hot setting if you really want it to be hot. And then there is a dial where you can turn up or turn down the brightness of the bulb. And the brighter the bulb, the hotter it is, the more it's going to melt your wax and the bigger wax pool you're going to have in your candle. Now, the way that I use my lamp is one of two ways. One is I do my frankincense candle under the lamp, and then I can control how deep into the layers I want to go with the dial. The other way that I use it is if I have a candle that's really tunneling horribly and I feel like if I could just get the wax off the walls, it might do better. I'll lamp it just long enough for the wax to come off the walls of the jar, and then I'll relight it. And in that case, I never lamp it for long enough to get a thick wax pool, because if your wax pool gets too deep, your wicks start to wiggle and travel around, and then it becomes not safe to burn again. So I would only use any of these, the lamps or the warmers, on a candle if I, A, was not going to burn it anymore, or if it was only for a limited short period of time to get the tunneling to go away, and then I pull it out from the lamp and then light it. So I wouldn't recommend doing a back and forth burn lamp, burn lamp, burn lamp, and that's just because it's not safe the way the wicks move. And then the last tool that I have around my house is a crock. Now the crock works similar to the warmer, except for that it's a full surround. So it literally surrounds the jar, heats it, again will melt it to full pool. And the crock is something like one of my stationary wax warmers that I would just have around the house all the time burning. It's not in this video right now because I'm actually using it and it's hot and I don't want to put it here on the screen, but I will show you this video here of what it looks like. And basically you just put your entire candle. This one fits both the 3-wick and it also fits the large jars from Yankee. And you can just put your whole candle in there and it melts the wax and it gives it throw. I have used these in the past on the Yankee original jars because that paraffin wax doesn't throw very well. And I have found that if you can melt the whole candle at once, you kind of get some throw. So I feel like it's a toss-up because if you are crocking your candle all day, every day, sometimes it will only last for a few days, which means you're burning through it really quickly compared to if you were to actually light it. But the crock actually, and I would say the lamps and the warmers, I feel like you get more of the fragrance, you get more of the throw. So it's like you get more fragrance, but if you leave it on all the time, it might not last as long. If you treat your warmers and your lamps the same way that you do burning, and that you only turn them on for 2 or 3 hours at a time and then you turn it off, your wax is going to last forever. It will take a very long time for you to get through a candle, and if you're looking to save money but you still want that fragrance, then that's the way to go. But the way I run them, it goes quicker than burning, because I would never burn a candle for 24 hours, but I would crock a candle for 24 hours, if that makes sense. All right, y'all, I think that's all the tools I laid out here to talk to you about. If you have any questions about any of these, feel free to put those in the comments below. I will also link any of these items in the description below. The ones that are affiliate links have been tagged appropriately. The rest of them are links I do not make anything off of. They're just links to products that I've purchased that I also really like. And if you appreciated this video, learned something new, and it made you feel inspired to try a different way of melting wax, give me a thumbs up, because that's really what I'm aiming for, is helping to educate you on my processes and get you excited about new ways to enjoy wax and fragrance in your home. I hope that it did that for you. Also, if you are not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. That always makes me feel good to see my numbers growing. It motivates me to create content and to keep doing good stuff that you all find enjoyable. Until next time, y'all, take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.